Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to plunge into a whole stack of sources, pull out the key insights, and basically give you a shortcut to being really well informed on some fascinating topics. And today, wow, we have quite a story. It starts with, believe it or not, a rock, just a piece of rock. But this isn't any old rock. Imagine a fragment of ancient cave painting, thousands of years old, turning up out of the blue in modern London. And its appearance sets off a shocking theft. Hints at this incredibly deep hidden history, stretching across millennia, connecting to World War II resistance fighters, and the lives of the artists who first painted it. It's quite a web.
It really is, and our source material today is drawn from excerpts of a novel that just brilliantly weaves these threads together. You've got the present-day hunt for this lost art, then you flash back to the really harrowing experiences of the French Resistance, and then even further back to the prehistoric people who actually created this art.
So our mission here is to unpack all of that. We want to dig into these interconnected stories, pull out the, surprising facts, the insights hidden in the material.
Exactly. We want you to understand not just what happened in these different times, but sort of why it all matters, how these echoes travel across thousands of years. It touches on art, war, the human spirit. It's all in there.
Okay, let's dive in. Our journey starts in London, in a pretty bleak attic office. This is where we meet Lydia Dean. She's an art expert, but her career is looking a bit shaky.
Yeah, the description paints a picture, doesn't it? Mean gray light drizzle on the window. She's clearly not thrilled with her job, even though it's in the art world. It feels like a bit of a dead end for her.
And there's pressure too, right, from a colleague?
Oh, definitely. There's Justin, described as oily and predatory. He's basically breathing down her neck, hinting her career stalled. It's not a great atmosphere. And there's this lovely little detail. She sort of absentmindedly pats this little soapstone Egyptian cat on her desk.
The 5th Dynasty fake she picked up in Cairo.
Exactly. It's a small thing, but it tells you a lot. She knows her stuff. Even when it comes to fakes, she's got the eye.
So into this whole scene walks a man from Wiltshire. Seems like one of England's comfortable classes, and he's carrying a rock.
Right. And Lydia's first reaction, understandably, is skepticism. She must see tons of fakes, things soldiers or sailors bought on leave in, Cairo or Baghdad. Obvious fakes, she thinks.
But this one, this one feels different.
Immediately, she has this startling moment of recognition. The rock has these lines, coarse as well as decisive, forming a bowl. And it's not just scratched on. It's made with a shaped point of tinted clay, almost like a crayon, a prehistoric crayon.
Wow.
And the real clincher is she recognizes this specific blowing technique where the artist would hold pigment in their mouth and sort of half spat and half sprayed through a half-closed fist to get this dappled color effect.
That's incredible detail.
It is. And she notes the rock itself is limestone, which fits.
So this isn't just interesting. This could be huge. If it's from the Lascaux culture, it's priceless and even historic.
Absolutely. And you can feel her internal turmoil immediately. This could be the thing that saves her job, her career.
Or
it could blow up in her face. Unleash a massive scandal that could ruin everything.
So what are the immediate problems she sees? The legal side of things must be a nightmare.
Oh, it's a minefield. The moment she suspects what it is, the alarm bells go off. The novel mentions the English parallel, think Stonehenge. You can't just own a piece of that. If the owner's father took this from France, the French government would likely be furious. They might even revoke his Légion d'honneur, which is a huge deal, a massive dishonor.
And she warns the owner he could face prison if he tries to sell it.
She does. But here's the twist. The legal situation is described as incredibly confused. Because if his father got it in 1944, when that part of France was under German military control, well, it might technically be considered legitimate war booty.
Wow. Okay, so it's not clear-cut at all. It's tangled up in history, law, honor.
Precisely. International heritage law, wartime rules, personal reputation, it's all tangled together.
Okay, so Lydia starts reaching out to her expert contacts. What do they find initially?
The emails start flying. The bull's colors are confirmed black and dark red, with muted shadings of red and yellow. There are hints that the design continues off the edge of the broken piece. But the really crucial thing is this line of 3 dots, maybe part of a 4th. And that's significant because
that specific pattern is found at Lascaux, but nowhere else. It's like a fingerprint.
But there's no obvious place it broke off from in Lascaux itself, no rock scar.
Exactly. That's the puzzle. If it's from Lascaux, where did it come from?
So the experts must be buzzing at this point.
Oh, absolutely. Their excitement really drives the mystery. Horst Vogelstern in Cologne throws out the idea of a new cave not yet discovered,
A whole new cave. Wow.
while a French contact, Monique, thinks it might be from a known cave that has not yet been fully explored. So this rock fragment suddenly opens up these massive questions about prehistoric art and undiscovered history.
Lydia, seeing this huge potential, decides to go public with it, right? Sets up a publicity coup. She does. She tells Justin, tells the directors. And maybe not the best idea, but they decide to display the rock in the boardroom for a celebratory moment.
And that's when disaster strikes.
Predictably, maybe. Justin's reaction says it all. It's gone.
Yeah.
Disappeared overnight. We've been burgled.
Gone, vanished.
And it's clearly a professional job. Only the rock was taken from a locked room. The news explodes. Half of Fleet Street and the BBC are calling it the Sistine Chapel of Prehistoric Art.
And Lydia's furious because they're trying to blame her.
Exactly. The blame game starts immediately and she's right in the firing line.
Okay, and now the owner's son arrives on the scene, Captain Philip Manners.
Yes. He initially comes across as maybe just a simple soldier, but Lydia quickly senses there's more to him, a quick mind, and you start to see the beginning of a partnership, maybe something more, as they try to figure out what happened to the rock.
So how does this ancient rock connect to World War II? That seems like a huge leap.
It does. But the link is Captain Jack Manners, Philip's father. The story shifts back to 1943, Scotland. He's training there. We see him with the absurd little Sten gun, that classic, cheap, maybe slightly unreliable submachine gun that was vital for resistance groups.
Right.
And he's observing the British Army's obsession with uniforms, contrasting it with the practical desert boots they wore in North Africa.
Yeah.
Little details that show his perspective.
He's part of these Jedbro teams. Who else is with him?
Yeah, the Jedbros were these small free-man teams, usually British, American, and French, dropped behind enemy lines. His team includes Francois Malron, a Frenchman with Elan, apparently hated marching and later became a big deal, a protege of de Gaulle,
Okay.
and Captain James Tecumseh McPhee, a U.S. Ranger, nicknamed Red Indian because of his haircut. He sounds like quite a character. Apparently brought Johnny Walker's finest and foie gras to their training camp.
Huh. Foie gras in the field. Love it. So what was their actual mission?
It was direct action. Following Churchill's orders to set Europe ablaze, their job was to train the French resistance, supply them with arms, and fight alongside them behind German lines, specifically targeting bridges and communications.
So different from the earlier spying operations.
Yeah, this was less about gathering intel and more about active sabotage and disruption, a real escalation.
And they arrive in France, in Périgord, in 1944.
That's right, dropped from a Lockheed Hudson onto a makeshift grass strip. The scene sounds chaotic, like a busy station platform, with people rushing to unload supplies.
And they meet Francois Melran's brother there.
Yes, Christophe, whose codename is Berger, the shepherd. And his very first reaction on seeing these three guys in uniform is, my God, what are we to do with three men in uniform?
Which really highlights the danger, doesn't it? Standing out like that.
Absolutely. It perfectly captures the tightrope they were walking. They're under German occupation, dealing with tensions within the resistance itself. Francois's brother is wary. Other French factions are sniping at each other.
Mm.
And the uniform thing was crucial. It meant they were soldiers, not spies, offering some protection under the Geneva Conventions if caught. But yeah, that also made them incredibly visible targets.
What kind of operations did they get involved in?
All sorts of dangerous stuff. The novel mentions the tuck-tuck-tuck sound of flint napping, maybe for tools, maybe for something else. They used 808 plastic explosive, which was powerful stuff, especially against railway points, the Achilles heel of the German rail network.
And ambushes were a constant threat.
Always. They used things like the gammon grenade, basically a bag of explosives you'd throw, crude but effective against vehicles. It was constant danger.
And the internal politics of the resistance sound pretty intense, too. There's this communist leader, Marat.
Right, Marat. Described as suspicious, a former railwayman who'd went to Moscow. He and Francois were old enemies. Marat apparently wanted abrasive paste, like grinding paste, to sabotage the bearings on the low flat cars the Germans used to transport tanks. It shows the kind of specific, targeted sabotage they were planning.
And the resistance really did make a difference, didn't they? Tying up German troops.
Hugely significant. The book mentions them tying up forces like the Bremer Division, even units of Russian renegades fighting for the Germans. These small groups, through sabotage and harassment, could prevent entire divisions from reaching crucial fronts like Normandy.
But it wasn't heroic all the time. The novel touches on the brutality, the atrocities.
Yes, it doesn't shy away from that.
Yeah.
The reality of guerrilla warfare was brutal. It mentions the SS massacre at Oradour, where hundreds of women and children were deliberately burned alive, a horrifying event. And Manners himself realizes that to effectively fight monsters like the SS, he might have to ally with ruthless people like Marat. He needs men ruthless enough to help him. It's that grim moral calculus of war.
And there are specific incidents mentioned, like a train ambush.
Yeah, where one of Francois' comrades gets hit. This leads them to seek help from Sybil, who's a veterinarian.
A vet, so she's patching up resistance fighters.
Exactly. She's described as very matter-of-fact practical. Her skills as a horse doctor are invaluable in dealing with gunshot wounds and limited supplies, just sulfa drugs and plain white bandages. It shows the sheer desperation and resourcefulness required.
Okay, so this all seems to be building towards something specific. The Kumont parachute drop sounds pivotal.
It really is. This is where the timelines start to collide dramatically. The Germans ambushed the supply drop, but Jack Manners Sr., Francois Malrand, and another man, Pirot, managed to salvage some weapons and hide them.
Where did they hide them?
In a cave.
Near La
Brassi, an area known for prehistoric sites.
Ah, a cave. Okay, but something goes wrong.
Terribly wrong. According to the story, Marat and his communist team turned up, intending to appropriate the hidden weapons for themselves.
So, infighting again.
Yes, but this time it leads to a shooting. A firefight breaks out. McPhee, the American Ranger, is killed. Another resistance fighter named Florian is killed. And Marat and his entire team are wiped out.
Wow, so multiple deaths right there in the cave with the weapons.
Exactly. And that explains the cover-up. Malrand, especially, would have powerful reasons, political and personal, to keep that cave and what happened inside it a secret for decades. It wasn't just about art. It was about bodies, betrayal, and political ambition.
And Jack Manners, Philip's father. This event must have deeply affected him. We learn about his personal life, too.
We do. The novel reveals he had an affair with Sybil, the vet, and after the war, she apparently left him her house in her will, specifying it should be free housing for a vet in her memory.
That's quite something.
It is, and it adds this layer of poignancy, him visiting the empty house years later, humming old French songs like Charles Trenet and weeping. It paints a picture of a man carrying profound secrets and losses.
Okay, let's shift timelines again, way back to the Vézère Valley, maybe 15,000 BC. What was life like then, according to the source?
It paints a vivid picture, a world filled with mist in the mornings, the smell of wood smoke, the sounds of people, the noise of man. It's not an empty wilderness, it's a landscape actively lived in.
You mentioned the talk of flint knapping earlier.
Yes, that constant sound of making tools. Life revolves around the essentials. Hunting reindeer in the Great Hunt, which is also a rite of passage for young men, marked with blood. They're managing the landscape too, cutting trees for fire, creating fords and rivers. They're part of this ecosystem, but also actively shaping it.
And amidst this, we meet Deer, the artist. What makes his art special?
His big innovation, his greatest achievement, according to the text, is capturing movement, especially in his bowls. He does this by subtly changing the perspective of the horns. The farther horn was always a simple curve, but the nearer horn, almost reversing it, to create depth and dynamism.
That's sophisticated stuff.
It really is. He also uses blurred lines to suggest motion and cleverly uses the natural shapes of rock to give his figures power and form. He's not just painting animals. He's trying to capture their essence, their life.
And then there's Moon, another artist, but different.
Yes, Moon represents a different kind of artistic vision. She has this ability to just draw what you see. It's contrasted with Deer's focus on the traditional forms, the beasts. Her talent is described as capturing a balance of curve and flatness and movement.
So more intuitive, maybe. Less bound by convention.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
It suggests a potential shift in how they perceived and represented the world. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? By the diversity of prehistoric art, maybe styles and approaches we haven't even discovered yet.
And together, Deer and Moon find a new cave.
Yes, a really special one, described as a chamber that seemed almost light from the whiteness of the chalk. Pristine, untouched, a perfect canvas for them.
And what they create inside is revolutionary.
Absolutely radical for the time, based on what we know about cave art. First, they paint people. Large-scale portraits of themselves, Deer and Moon on the main wall. Human, but on the scale of a great bull. That's almost unheard of. Human figures in Paleolithic art are usually rare, small, or abstract.
Wow, and what else?
Landscape elements. They depict landscapes and settings, a fallen tree, the river dancing with leaves. Again, very unusual. Prehistoric art is overwhelmingly focused on animals, sometimes signs, very rarely the environment itself.
And Deer keeps innovating with movement.
He does. He paints parted grass near a stag's hoof to show it's moving through the landscape. He literally asks why they never paint the grass. He's consciously breaking convention.
And then there's that strange killing scene.
Yeah, the very enigmatic one. A crude stick figure man with a bird-like beak and anatomically specific decals, facing a bison spilling its guts. Interpretations mentioned include a hunting decoy, a shaman figure, or some kind of double violence. But the key thing is, it feels different. It does not truly fit with the rest of the cave's art, which seems more celebratory.
So this new radical art causes conflict.
Inevitably. There's a clash with tradition. The Keeper of the Bulls represents the old ways. He's angered by the new style and also by Moon being pregnant, perhaps seeing it all as hubris or bad luck. But the Keeper of the Horses is more supportive, recognizes Deer's talent. So you see these tensions playing out, tradition versus innovation, maybe generational conflict.
How does it climax?
It's dramatic. The traditional keepers express outrage. The Keeper of the Bulls, who is apparently dying Moon, had even sketched something that foretold his death confronts Deer and Moon. But Moon stands her ground. She invokes the Great Mother, a primal female power, asserting her own authority and the validity of their art. It's a powerful moment.
And how does the ancient story end? How is the cave sealed?
Moon, in what's described as an act of pure will, commands her own father to seal the entrance to the cave. She declares, "Our work here is done." It's a deliberate act to preserve their creation, ensuring its secrets remain hidden, waiting for millennia until that mortar shell hits in 1944.
Incredible. Okay, let's bring it all back to the present. Lydia and Philip Manners are finally confronting President Malran, the former resistance fighter, Francois.
Yes, and Malran's security chief, Les Benas, is there too. His father was also in the resistance, adding another layer. The tension must be immense.
And Malran confesses.
He does, up to a point. He says, "There is a lost cave, of course, where your father's painting came from, and I suppose it's time for the secret to come out." But then he tries to spin it.
How so?
He blames the theft of the rock fragment on British intelligence. He claims they thought Manners' father's death would somehow open Pandora's box and reveal everything. It sounds a bit like deflection.
And Manners isn't buying it.
Not at all. He's shocked. Says he knows nothing about his father being involved with intelligence, and he points the finger straight back at Malran. This is your cover-up.
So why did Malran keep it secret for so long? What was the real reason?
It boils down to protecting his own political career. He admits he wanted to avoid unfortunate repercussions, a scandal about his wartime partner stealing a cave painting. Even though Manners Sr. didn't steal it, the association, the potential questions, Malran didn't want a scandal. It was self-preservation, pure and simple.
And how did Jack Manners actually find the rock fragment?
By sheer chance, Malran confirms it. It was after German mortar fire knocked down a tree and opened the entrance to the cave where they'd hidden the guns after the Kumant drop. He just stumbled upon it in the chaos of war.
And Malran finally reveals the full story of the shootout in the cave, based on Manners' father's own account.
Yes, the grim details. Marat and his communist team attacked them inside the caves, trying to appropriate the guns. In the ensuing fight, McPhee, Florian, Marat, and all of Marat's men were killed.
And they just left the bodies there.
They did. Malrand, who was a colonel then, and Jack Manners agreed to seal the cave and just let sleeping dogs lie. A cover-up born of wartime necessity and later political expediency.
For Philip Manners, learning all this, the shootout, the cover-up, his father's affair with Sybil, her leaving him the house, it must be overwhelming.
Absolutely. He's discovering this whole secret history of his father, a man defined by war, secrets, and perhaps a deep hidden sensitivity. It completely reframes his understanding of his own family.
And Milrand, he doesn't seem entirely repentant, still playing politics.
Oh, definitely. The novel suggests he's still subtly manipulating things, using his influence on national policies like a European tax plan on art sales for his own benefit. He dismisses it lightly, like a little game of footsie under the table was a picayune price to pay.
Chilling.
Yeah.
And he has this strange connection to the cave art himself.
A very personal one. He admits a tendresse, a tenderness, for Moon, the woman of the cave. He mentions his own father, in his later years, confusing Moon with Sybil. And there's his vanity. He apparently thinks his own portrait resembles Deer, the caveman. It's this odd mix of political maneuvering, deep-seated sentiment, and echoes from the distant past.
So finally, they all go to the cave itself. And it's located in that same field where Lydia and Manners had a personal moment earlier.
Yes, that same green sward. Another one of those strange, perhaps meaningful connections across time and experience that the novel weaves in.
And when they enter the cave.
The full extent of Deer and Moon's creation is revealed. The great landscape, the bulls, bears, horses, and crucially, the large human figures of Deer and Moon themselves. It confirms everything, including Malran's strange dress. The ancient art, the wartime secrets, the modern investigation, it all converges right there.
Wow. Okay, let's just take a breath here. That's an incredible narrative, weaving together so many threads. Now, the novel also includes an author's note with some factual background. Let's unpack some of that expert insight.
Yeah, it's fascinating how the fiction is grounded in reality. For instance, the idea of the resistance using caves. Totally factual. Caves were vital for shelter and storing weapons. The author even mentions the real André Malraux, who Malrand is likely based on boasting in 1969 about storing bazookas in Lascaux itself.
No way. Bazookas in Lascaux?
Apparently so.
Yeah.
It highlights that connection between these ancient spaces and modern conflict.
What about the art itself, the human figures, the landscapes? How unusual is that really?
Very unusual for the Lascaux era, which is dominated by animals. The author notes the rarity, but points out it's not completely unprecedented. Other slightly different period caves, like Cusack, do contain human representations, caricatures of faces, and silhouettes of women. So the novel takes a real, though rare, element and pushes it further.
And the interpretations of cave art, the novel mentions different theories.
Yes, it touches on the history of interpretation. From l'Abbé Breuil, calling Lascaux the Sistine Chapel of prehistory, to André Leroi-Gourhan's more structural analysis in the 60s, Leroi-Gourhan famously divided paintings into male and female symbols, like bison being female, horses male, and suggested they represented complex mythologies, perhaps even initiation ceremonies into sexual adulthood. The novel engages with these ideas, particularly the mystery surrounding the killing scene.
And the core idea of the novel, An Undiscovered Cave, is that plausible?
Absolutely. The author makes a strong point here. Major discoveries are still being made. Chauvet Cave, with art going back 30,000 years, was only found in 1994. Cusack, with those human engravings, was found in 2000, apparently within strolling distance of where the author was writing. So the idea of another hidden masterpiece isn't far-fetched at all. It lends real weight to the story's premise.
The author also talks about the sigurd of the Périgord region itself.
Yeah, emphasizing its incredibly long history of continuous human habitation, a real cradle of humanity. The climate, the food, the people, described as having an admirable, tenacious disinclination to be run by anybody but themselves. That spirit perhaps connects the ancient artists, the resistance fighters, and even the modern characters.
And finally, the impact of the resistance in WWII. Was it really that significant?
The author cites historian M.R.D. Foote, who suggested that the actions of the resistance, like stopping a panzer division heading for Normandy with very limited means, may have decided the outcome of the D-Day invasion and thus of World War II. It underlines the huge strategic importance of the seemingly small-scale actions depicted in the novel.
What an incredible journey this deep dive has been. We started with just a fragment of rock in a London office.
Right, and ended up spanning millennia, from the dawn of human art to the brutal realities of modern warfare, all interconnected.
It really makes you think about the enduring themes, doesn't it?
Definitely. The power of art to just speak across vast gulfs of time, the human capacity for incredible creativity sitting right alongside, well, savage conflict, and how individual lives, personal stories like Jack Manners or Moon's get completely tangled up in these huge historical forces.
It leaves you wondering, as you reflect on these layers we've uncovered today, the hidden cave, the wartime secrets, the ancient artist, what other secrets might be lying just beneath the surface, right under our feet? What unexpected connections are waiting to be found between our lives now, the deep past, and the truly extraordinary, often hidden depths of human experience?